PSG give Kylian Mbappe permission to speak to the Saudi Pro League side Al Hilal after a world record bid. Hi, good evening. Welcome to the Transfer Show. The eye-watering numbers behind that record bid coming up, plus why a Premier League move should not be dismissed. We'll also have the latest on Harry Kane and news of another meeting between Tottenham and Bayern Munich. We have to start with Kylian Mbappe and that world record bid from the Saudi Pro League side Al Hilal. As you can see, the guys are here. I'm going to start with you, Chief Reporter Kaveh Solokol. Astronomical sums, the sort of sums we'd play a chief reporter. Break them down for us.
Yeah, look, we told you on Friday night that Kylian Mbappe had been put up for sale by PSG because he's refusing to extend his contract. He's been dropped from their pre-season tour of Japan and South Korea. We told you on Saturday that Al Hilal were one of the clubs who wanted to sign him. And this morning, it emerged that Al Hilal had actually made a world record bid for Mbappe. The bid officially went in on Saturday. From Riyadh. It was sent to PSG and it made clear that the bid was for 300 million euros for the transfer of the player Kylian Mbappe, and it was subject to working out a payment schedule, and there were also 4 conditions attached, but they were pretty standard conditions for official offer letters. Things like an agreement had to be reached and a contract signed between Al Hilal and PSG. Also, an employment contract had to be signed between Al Hilal and Kylian Mbappe. Also, he needed to pass a medical, and the transfer had to be registered with FIFA before the Saudi Arabian transfer window closed. Now, the response from PSG to this offer has been, we will give Al Hilal permission to speak to Kylian Mbappe. I think technically they cannot say that they're accepting the bid unless Kylian Mbappe also accepts the bid as well. But in layman's terms, if they're giving their best player, the best player in the world, permission to speak to another club, you and I, if we were sitting in a bar, would say that they've accepted the bid. But technically, that has not happened yet.
Right, Kaveh. So PSG have said, Al Hilal, you can speak to Mbappe. Will Mbappe speak to Al Hilal?
That's the sort of billion-pound question. At the moment, there's no indication that Kylian Mbappe wants to go to Saudi Arabia. He feels that his future is in Europe. He feels that his future is at Real Madrid, and he wants to move to Real Madrid on a free transfer next summer. But I would never say never because of the astronomical amounts of money we're talking about. We're talking about Saudi Arabia's sovereign wealth fund. I don't know much about golf, but I think they've effectively just bought golf. They offered Lionel Messi a couple of weeks ago. The same club, Al Hilal, offered him something like £350 million a year to move to Saudi Arabia. There's been reports in the US that they're willing to offer Kylian Mbappe 700 million euros to play for them for just one season. So you and I can sit here and say he's not interested, he's not going to talk to them. But if now that Al Hilal have permission, they speak to Kylian Mbappe's representatives and they say, we're offering you this much money, 200, 300, 400, 500, 600, 700 million euros tax-free a year, are you honestly saying to me that he's going to say, no, 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 I grew up a Real Madrid supporter. I had a poster of Zinedine Zidane on my bedroom wall. Real Madrid are the only club for me. I'm not interested in 700 million euros. I think knowing footballers, as we all know footballers, and human beings, there are not many people in the world who would say no to that kind of money or wouldn't be interested in talking about that kind of money. Absolutely. If it was on offer.
Tim Thornton, our senior reporter, I want to bring you in. Kaveh called Mbappe the best player in the world. He's clearly never seen Jack Grealish. But if Mbappe were to go, what sort of blow would that be to European football?
It would be a huge blow. I sat alongside Kaveh at the World Cup final, just over 7 months ago. Scored a hat-trick in that tournament. The bigger the games got, the better he got, the Golden Boot winner. So purely from a football point of view, it doesn't really make sense for him. He's 24, the best years of football ahead of him. If he wants to have the same kind of legacy that Messi and Ronaldo will have, then he needs to perform at the very
But he'll get a bigger
highest
house
level,
then, won't he, at this rate?
But he does need to perform at the highest level, and also throw into the mix that, of course, it's the Euros next summer. He was one of the stars at the World Cup. If he wants to be one of the stars at the Euros as well, he needs to be playing at the very highest level. He needs to be match fit, so he can't afford to be sat on the bench for a full season at PSG. So his next move is crucial for him. But if he's not playing in Europe, then we lost Ronaldo last year, Messi this summer, and potentially now Mbappe.
One thing I would say is about the actual contract that PSG offered Mbappe in the first place. So last summer they said, right, it's a 3-year contract. That's how it was advertised. There was a shirt shot with Kylian Mbappe with 2025 on the back.
Yeah.
But it was really a 2-year contract plus a year's option. And the year's option was down to the player, not the club. So the player decides if they want to extend for a further year. Now, PSG probably trusted Mbappe to exercise that 1-year option. But after 1 year of that so-called 3-year contract, which is really a 2-year contract, we're in that position we were before, where he's got 1 year left on his deal. And he says, well, actually, I'm not going to exercise that option. To which
But
PSG...
is he going to sit not playing football for a year, Dharmesh? Like, really?
Well, we might not have a choice. If PSG can't sell him, and the problem that they've got now is because they say they are going to sell him, all of the price tags that we're hearing for Kylian Mbappe, 100 to 150 million pounds, if you're a buying club, why would you pay that much? Why would you pay that much? This is good for them, the fact that Al Hilal have, well, PSG would accept 259 million pounds, but European clubs, they're not going to go anywhere near that kind of figure. But it's good for PSG that, look, we're getting an offer for this. Who else is going to come in for him?
Okay.
So I just think this time last year, when the contract was made, there was almost a slight inevitability about it if Mbappe decided, actually, I'm not going to sign that extension to my contract, and that's where we are now.
Dharmesh says there's no chance that European clubs can go anywhere near this, Carve, but any scenario at all that Mbappe could end up in the Premier League?
There is a scenario that could happen. If you're saying to me, will he be playing in the Premier League in a couple of weeks' time? No, I don't think that's going to happen. But there is a scenario. And the scenario is a scenario that PSG can see, because PSG have said that just in the past 48 hours, a hyper competitive market has been created for the services of Kylian Mbappe. They say they've had huge interest for the player. They say that the bid from Al Hilal is not the only offer they've received. They've received other offers, and they've received expressions of interest from other clubs who are formulating offers for the player. How could I see him ending up in the Premier League? I think if Kylian Mbappe says absolutely no to Saudi Arabia and says, I'm not going to Saudi Arabia, and if PSG stick to their position that he's not going to play for them again, that he's going to sit out next season, then you'll have a situation where the clock is ticking and we could get to deadline day and PSG would be in a position where they would say, you know what, we're going to send this guy out on loan. Because if we send him out on loan, at least we get a loan fee and we get a club to pay his wages. And therefore, he's out of the way. Now, they would prefer to do that with a club that's not in the Champions League. So maybe someone like Chelsea would come into play. Maybe someone like Tottenham would come into play, because he would need to be playing to stay fit for the Euros next summer. So in that situation, potentially it could happen. That's what PSG are feeling. If you're asking me, is there a Premier League club who can go head-to-head with Al Hilal and offer the kind of transfer fee or the kind of wages that are on offer in Saudi Arabia? Absolutely not. No way. That is a total impossibility. And also, Kylian Mbappe doesn't want to come to the Premier League. Kylian Mbappe wants to go to Real Madrid. And if he digs his heels in and stays where he is, he picks up more than £100 million over the next 12 months from PSG in wages and loyalty bonuses. And then next summer, he signs for Real Madrid and he picks up £160 million signing on fee and massive, massive wages by European standards because he's a free agent. So Real Madrid would pay him more.
In amongst all that, the greatest promo for the transfer show on deadline day, Mbappe moves to Burnley on loan. So they'll have to watch now, won't they? Guys, thank you very much on Mbappe. Much more on him to come at 7. And a reminder, of course, we're going to talk Harry Kane as well. But in the meantime, I want to throw some names at you very quickly. Quick answers about updates, what's going on. Dharmesh, Rasmus Højlund.
Yeah, look, after Manchester United secured the signings of Mason Mount and Andre Onana, I think the focus is well and truly on recruiting a number 9. Rasmus Højlund from Atalanta appears to be the primary target as far as Manchester United are concerned. But United have a valuation and they will not overpay for this player because they're aware of FFP rules as well with regard to the transfer fee and the wages. Atalanta, they're talking about, we can get 70, 80, 90 million euros for this player. Manchester United aren't interested in going to those kind of figures. They've got their own valuation, which they're comfortable with. And hence why, if they can't agree a deal with Atalanta, in the background, they have got other targets. One strong option is the Eintracht Frankfurt striker, Randall Kolo Muani. But the primary focus seems to be on Højlund for now. OK,
Tim, Wilf Gnonto, will he be playing for Leeds at the beginning of the season?
Daniel Farke hopes he will, but he says himself there are no guarantees. The situation with Gnonto is that there's been a lot of interest in him, but Everton have had a bid, I'm told, rejected already for him this summer. Leeds want to keep him, let's be clear about that. But interestingly, a lot of players have gone out on loan. He is not one of those that has got a relegation clause in his contract, so that gives Leeds hope that they can keep him. But there is a clear desire at Ellen Road to keep him for the forthcoming season. So it's one to watch. We'll see how it plays out.
We certainly will watch it. Dharmesh, West Ham want a midfielder. Is that midfielder João Palhinha?
Well, they made a bid for him earlier on this month, £45 million. Fulham rejected it out of hand. Fulham's valuation is closer to 80 million, though that could be the start of a negotiation and some sort of a compromise. They've had talks since, and those talks have still revealed a gap in valuation. West Ham now deciding whether they're going to go back in with an improved offer or move on to other targets. And it's been complicated a bit now because João Palhinha suffered a suspected dislocated shoulder in their Premier League Summer Series match on Sunday against Brentford. You can see him coming off now in quite a lot of pain. And Marco Silva has said that it looks like it is a bad one. So
well,
the other
is
options,
a complication, isn't it?
Yeah, so the other options West Ham are looking at, there's a long-term interest in James Ward-Prowse. They're expected to push for him. Talks continue with Juventus over Dennis Zakaria. There's a bit of a gap in valuation there. They're very, very interested in the Chelsea midfielder, Conor Gallagher as well. There's long-term interest in the likes of Scott McTominay, in Edson Alvarez from Ajax. So they've had initial talks there. And it's not just midfield where they're looking to bring in a defender as well. And they are still pushing to sign Manchester United's Harry Maguire. Okay. They're looking at a loan deal for him. They're looking at a permanent deal for him as well. Wages could prove to be a stumbling block as far as that one is concerned, but there is definite interest in Harry Maguire. And very, very quickly, a forward player as well. And this one is nearly done. They have got an agreement in principle with Manchester City for their Portugal under-19 international, Carlos Borges. And that one should be completed in the coming week or so.
OK, Tim, Fulham, Calvin Bassey. Are they going to get him from Ajax?
This is an interesting one because an agreement has been reached in principle with Bassey for £18 million from Ajax, but they are also interested in Mohamed Salisu from Southampton. It's our understanding they will only sign one of those two players. Fulham close to an agreement with Southampton for Salisu for £15 million, and one source has told Sky Sports News that Fulham are leaning towards Salisu, but no final decision has been made yet, and personal terms could well be a factor in that one.
Excellent. All right, let's take a break. When we come back, we're going to talk Harry Kane. See you in a moment. This is the first instalment of the transfer show today. We are back at 7 tonight when we'll hear from the Arsenal manager, Mikel Arteta. Well, I promised you Harry Kane. I didn't promise you Paul Gilmore, but he is here to talk Harry Kane. So, right, loads of noise around Kane. What's actually happening?
Well, Mike, as of today, negotiations ongoing between Bayern Munich and Tottenham over the transfer of the England captain. No fee close to being agreed. Still a major gap in valuation exists. But if an offer is accepted, we know Kane would be open to speaking formally with Bayern Munich. But crucially, I think Kane will not sign a new contract this summer. And of course, as has been well documented, that's driving a fear within Tottenham that if they could potentially lose him to a Premier League rival next summer, that is why the dialogue is open with the likes of Bayern Munich. They've also spoken to PSG. We know that Kane's preference, should he leave Tottenham this summer, and it is a choice between those two, would be Bayern Munich. But equally, he's quite relaxed about the situation. If he ends up at Tottenham at the start of the season, he will simply get on with it. We know his love for the club. And he's quite relaxed knowing that he does have that year remaining on his contract. But what we do know is he won't sign a new contract this summer.
So he won't sign a new contract. The owner's told Daniel Levy if he doesn't sign a contract, he's off. So he's off, isn't he?
Not necessarily. I think it could be... The positive that Tottenham fans are focusing in on is the fact that, you know, maybe if there's no fee agreed and there continues to be a kind of a stalemate between the two clubs, but the fact that there has been this ongoing dialogue and the meetings are happening on a regular basis, I certainly do think that increases the chances of Harry Kane being on the move this summer. I think it's kind of like we've talked about in recent weeks, it being the best of the worst case scenarios from a Tottenham point of view, because they desperately still want to keep Harry Kane. Of course they do. He's one of the best goal scorers in the world. He's somebody who they have relied upon for so long. It will be strange to have to cope without Harry Kane in their team. But sources are telling us at the moment we're at that stage of this negotiation that it's about compromise. There has to be some give somewhere, and at the moment that's not coming. Ange Postecoglou has gone on record to say that he's not quite happy with how long this is taking, and this will only become more and more of a distraction the longer this goes on in the window. So there might just be that willingness to do a compromise somewhere, but at the moment that's not coming. But the dialogue is very much still open.
Two points I'd make about this so-called necessity to sell Harry Kane in this transfer window if he doesn't sign a new contract. One is people are saying, right, does that now bring Premier League interest back in? As far as we're aware, that stance hasn't changed. Tottenham do not want to sell, and have got no intention of selling to a Premier League rival, because there was talk of Manchester United going to go back into the negotiating table. My information is on that one, Manchester United are not going to do that. The fee and the wages would just be almost impossible for them to do to comply with financial fair play regulations as well. And another point I'd make here is, if this is true, that they're going to sell him because he's not going to sign a new contract in this transfer window, then what are Bayern Munich thinking? If Bayern Munich are in open dialogue with Tottenham and Harry Kane is open to talking to Bayern Munich, but the price is something like £100 million, which Bayern Munich don't want to meet, why would Bayern Munich, with all of this information that they have now to hand, want to pay £100 million? They could go back to Tottenham later on in the window and say, look, we can offer 70 plus 10, for example. Even if Tottenham don't want to accept that, It might put a little bit of pressure on Tottenham, simply because they need to make some sort of money on Kane in this transfer window and avoid what you were talking about there, the potential of losing him for free next summer to anyone, be it a Premier League team or anyone else in Europe.
That's why we're hearing a lot about PSG, because PSG are also... They also have an interest in Harry Kane, but I think it's common knowledge within all of these negotiations that's going on at the moment that Kane, if he has to go and Tottenham do accept an offer and Tottenham are happy with it, the preference would be Germany and Bayern Munich if he has to go abroad. So that is maybe the pressure from a Bayern Munich side. But if they know he wants to go there and they're convinced he does want to join, well, they're quite happy sitting back and who blinks first in all of this. And that's the situation. It's a messy situation, and that's why it's got the potential to drag and drag.
Tim, how much of a nightmare is this for Ange Postecoglou?
It is. From Harry Kane's point of view, we know that he can handle this. He's done it in the past, so that won't be a problem. But you look at Postecoglou, he's coming to Spurs, he's trying to plan for a new season, and it's difficult because he doesn't know whether his star striker is going to be at the club when the new season kicks off. And this is going to be a sideshow from now until when the window closes at the end of next month, it makes it very difficult for him. He needs a plan A. He also needs a plan B if Harry Kane goes. And even any potential signings coming in, the first question they will ask is, what's happening with Harry Kane? So when you want stability during pre-season, it's very difficult to get it with this situation.
Right. I want to whiz through some other names very quickly. Paul, while I've got you, Alexander Mitrovic, what's happening?
So Mitrovic wants to leave Fulham. That remains the case. Al Hilal have had 2 bids rejected for the Serbia striker. Fulham have initially said he's not for sale. We don't want to sell him. They're in a strong position. 3 years left on his contract. He was, scoring 14 goals in the Premier League last season for them. But they have put this price tag on him of just over £50 million. Mitrovic not so happy with that because it's putting off interested clubs. He is unsettled. He is on tour with them, but he had to be convinced to go by his agent and PFA representatives. Now that he is in America, well, he's not training with his teammates. He didn't play in the game against Brentford. He's threatened not to play for Fulham again if he doesn't get his wish. And so it really is a bit of a messy situation there, really reluctant Mitrovic there. And it leaves Fulham with a huge dilemma. They rightly want to keep him, but do they need the hassle of a soap opera involving their star striker? Do they take the money and avoid the potential of him staying away from their opening Premier League game against Everton on the 12th of August? I think we need to watch this space because we haven't heard the last of this in the coming weeks.
Just quickly off the back
Yeah, I've got 30 seconds.
Yeah,
so.
Fulham are looking at strikers anyway, regardless of the Mitrovic situation. And Raul Jimenez from Wolves, he's due to have a medical today with Fulham. Might have started it already, actually, after the club's agreed a £5.5 million fee. So Raul Jimenez looks like he's on his way from Molineux to Craven Cottage.
As ever, the transfer window is not letting us down. Gentlemen, thank you very much for the moment. We are back at 7, of course, with more of the Transfer Show. Next, though, we've got some pre-season goals. Darwin Núñez came off the bench and scored twice for Liverpool in Germany. They didn't win, though. See you in a moment.